are reporting 17 unnamed sources telling us this is true. What's your response to this? Does this surprise you, or is it not a surprise at all?
This is definitely a surprise, and I do commend the reporting on this story. It was an excellent story, very deeply reported, and I think where we are as a society in America is starting to wake up to all the different things that the Communist Party and its various arms have done to, perhaps meddle is too strong of a word, but to interfere in various American processes. And this is just a very detailed look at an example of where the party got very, very deep in disrupting the American supply chain.
Now, I do want to read the statements of the companies once again. It is untrue, Amazon saying that AWS knew about a supply chain compromise, an issue with malicious chips or hardware modifications when acquiring Elemental. This is the company that deployed the servers that had these chips embedded from Apple. On this, we can be very clear. Apple has never found malicious chips, hardware manipulations, or vulnerabilities purposely planted in any server. And Supermicro saying we remain unaware of any such investigation. This is the company that Bloomberg is reporting made these servers. Now, take a listen to this statement from the Chinese government. Supply chain safety in cyberspace is an issue of common concern, and China is also a victim. So the Chinese government not denying it, not directly addressing the allegations. What do you make of that response from the Chinese government?
So it's interesting that the statement comes from the Foreign Ministry, which is one of the few bodies of the party that has a spokesperson that speaks somewhat regularly to the American press. So it is possible that the people in the Foreign Ministry don't have any idea of what the PLA, China's military, the party's military rather, was doing, and that they got instructions to address it this way, or they frankly just didn't know. Unfortunately, the PLA, the party military, does not have a spokesperson who speaks to international media, so there's no way for journalists and people on the outside to actually go in there and get the military's view on any of this. Even if we were able to, it's very likely that the military would not admit to having done such a complicated and devastating process.
Now, tensions between the U.S. and China are already high. We're in the middle of a trade war, and the Trump administration has expressed a lot of concern about, the national security concerns with respect to China. So how do you expect a story like this might up the ante or increase the level of tension that we're now seeing between the United States and China? So
with Vice President Pence's frankly astonishing speech today, which was the most critical by a president or vice president towards China in as long as I can remember, I think we really are at the perfect storm of all these different areas of U.S. society having things that frankly they feel that Beijing did wrong, ways that Beijing has wronged them. So I think we're going to see more reporting like this come out, because I think U.S. officials and people in the intelligence community are going to be more willing to talk about it. And I think we're going to see more of a response from government, from civil society, from academia about ways to constructively push back on China's influence in America. Now, I want to make it very clear, China's influence is not Chinese people's influence, and that neither myself or most of the people working on this support any sort of thing that would make it more difficult for Chinese students to study here, for example, and that this is really about the Communist Party and not about the Chinese people.
Are we going to see U.S. companies moving their supply chains outside of China?
I think we will. I think that is something that the Trump administration has long pushed for, and I think stories like this are good ammunition for the Trump administration to say, listen, besides the political win that we get by you moving production to America or possibly to other parts of the world, it's also a security win for you. And even though it's cheaper, even though it's easier to be manufacturing in China, you really got to bake in the risk.